Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7. We're at episode number 1740 today. Thank you so much for joining me for it. And I'm coming at you from the Star Wars 7x7 studio, or at least what is going to serve as the studio for the next week or so here in Chicago for Star Wars Celebration. I am on the 37th floor high above Michigan Avenue here, and off in the distance, not too far behind me, is the Marriott Marquis Hotel, and that's not necessarily a landmark that you would be thinking about when it comes to Celebration, but it happens to be right across Prairie Street from where the Wintrust Arena is, where the Celebration stage is going to be, and also kitty corner across from McCormick Place, where most of the rest of Celebration is going to be happening. So it just happens to be that the Marriott Marquis is a large enough landmark on the landscape, whereas you can't really tell by looking out at the scenery during the day where Wintrust is and where McCormick Place is, at least from our vantage point here. But the Marriott Marquis serves as a reasonable landmark for identifying the general direction thereof. But we're not necessarily here to talk about landmarks today. We will be back at McCormick Place tomorrow and shooting video there and shooting the whole episode there, so you get the audio version too, and doing some scouting to prepare for Celebration Chicago and the wall-to-wall coverage that I'm going to be bringing you day in, day out, hour in, hour out, as the case may be. But for today's show, what I want to share with you is the annual question. I guess it's not annual anymore because of the fact that there was no Celebration in 2018, so it's just the Celebration question tradition. And if you've either been with me for a while, or you haven't necessarily been with me for a while but have listened back to earlier episodes of the show, then you might be familiar with the idea of the fact that every Celebration I choose one question that I use as my interview question because, everybody's busy, everybody's crazy, everybody's got so many different things to do that the only interview question I ask is just one very simple one, so that way, everybody gets to do something and everybody's time is respected and they can go off on their merry way from there. In 2015, the question was very open-ended: why Star Wars? That was literally the only thing I asked of authors and artists and podcasters and Lucasfilm employees, and the range of answers that I got was rather stunning and remarkable. So I thought, hey, let's try this again in 2016 in London, and instead of the why Star Wars question, because I'd done it once already, the question was, what is most exciting to you about Star Wars right now? And dozens of interviews for that too, which was really wonderful and spectacular to have this whole tapestry woven together around this one question. And in 2017, because it was the 40th anniversary of the debut of the original Star Wars, aka A New Hope, the question was, what is your favorite Star Wars memory? So this year, the question has been inspired by the fact that we're in Chicago for Celebration. And Chicago, when I think of luminaries, one name that jumps to mind pretty immediately is Oprah Winfrey, who of course had her influential and highly successful Oprah Winfrey Show based here in Chicago for many, many years. And so I took a page out of her book and adapted one of her favorite questions. So the question I'm going to be asking to authors and artists and podcasters and Lucasfilm employees and so on and so forth this year at Celebration Chicago is, when it comes to Star Wars, what do you know for sure? And if history is any indicator, the way that people answer these is going to be rather varied as well. Some folks who, say for example are authors, may end up answering it very focused on character and plot development lenses that they look through. And some others may not. Some others may have just more outright emotional reactions to the question and follow those kinds of threads. It's really a very amazing exercise to go through once the question's been settled on, to see how people react to these things. And so that is going to be part of the whole discovery and the journey of Star Wars Celebration Chicago for me. And also, it's going to be part of it for you as well, because those interview questions are going to be shared here on the podcast. Depending on how many I get, it could be as much as a month or more after Celebration Chicago ends. So you're going to be able to bask in the glow and glory of Star Wars Celebration Chicago for many weeks to come after the event has passed. And the great news is that I've already field tested this question in 2 instances, and I will explain exactly what I mean by that in just a moment. Stay tuned. This episode's brought to you by Audible. You can get your free trial at sw7x7.com/audible, AUDIBLE. I've been checking out the audiobooks for Star Wars on Audible since the reboot of the canon with A New Dawn by John Jackson Miller, and everyone I've listened to I've enjoyed the heck out of. And now they're coming out with an audiobook exclusive, Jedi Lost, that's going to debut on April 30th. So the only way you're going to get that is by getting the audio version. So you might as well get a free trial for Audible and get your hands on it. You can go to sw7x7.com/audible, sign up, and when it comes out, you'll be all set. Welcome back. So when I say I field tested that question, that what do you know for sure question, what I mean by that is that I've already asked it in a couple of interviews. Specifically, the interview with Frank Rich that took place over this past weekend. And prior to that, when I interviewed Ryan Shore, who is the composer for Galaxy of Adventures, Forces of Destiny, and a whole bunch of other awesome projects. So I posed that question to them, and the answers to those, well, if you haven't heard them on the show, it's because they weren't on the show. Nope, they were actually held back for patrons at the FN2187 level, supporting me at patreon.com/SW7x7. That is a particular perk of being a patron at the FN2187 level. So if you are interested to hear what Ryan Shore and Frank Rich had to say in response to the question, when it comes to Star Wars, what do you know for sure? Then check out patreon.com/SW7x7 and consider supporting me at that FN2187 level. And that is going to do it for today's show here. Thank you so much for joining me for it, as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be. Hopefully in Chicago very soon.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox. It is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other related Star Wars items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2019 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.